All right, here we are. This is, I don't know what this can see. I might not end up in the frame here, but that's okay. So, this is everything that I use equipment-wise to reload. I used to have a bench-mounted press, a progressive, which is really nice for high volume, handgun especially, but I'm kind of simplified. So what you're looking at here as I go through it is my bare minimum. I mean, I guess I could get away with a little bit less. If you had to, you could probably get away with a file, set of calipers, because you're gonna have to you have to measure brass every time you fire it. Every time you fire, the brass grows, and what happens is inside the chamber, the neck of the brass can collet on the bullet if it gets too long. And turning this into a collet will cause the chamber pressures to spike. And they could spike beyond the pressure limits of the firearm. So there's a trim length that we shoot for. That's what the calipers are for. A file to shorten them back into spec. There are better tools. There's like little hand lathes that you can have to do that. But for low volume, and I know how to work a file, so I can use a file to trim my brass. I have a chamfering tool to chamfer the brass inside and out, but that can be done with a file and even a pocket knife. So that's most of the brass preparation. When it's dirty, you can take steel wool and you can clean them up by hand if you have to. There's case tumblers with vibratory and rotary case tumblers that will do that, but you know, there's more expense to all that equipment. So that's the chamfer. Once the cases are prepped, the first step would be priming. And so what I have is, this is my press. Now, this is the only one I use anymore. So this works for everything. It works for priming the cases. It works for sizing the brass, sheeting and crimping the bullets. And I can also pull bullets if I have to. So as far as priming goes, the way this one works is this screws into here, and then this, I don't know if we can see it here, but the primer sits in this little pocket, this little sleeve that mounts on there. And then what you would do is you have, every caliber has a different shell holder. This is a die set for 7.62 by 339 Russian. I can get this case out of this shell holder out of here. So this snaps in to there. And it holds the rim of the shell with the primer in here, and you take the press and you push it up. And that would prime this case. The primer's already in it, but that would prime this case, and then you just repeat the process. Once that's done to all your cases that you're going to load, you remove this and you take the shell holder out of here. Remove this adapter. This adapter goes back in here with the other stuff. There's also a this setup for large primers, and there's a small diameter primer size that those pieces are in here. Alright, so now you have a prime case. You move your shell holders down to here, and you have a bullet seating die. Lee makes this, and these are Lee dies, but there's a bunch of companies that make dies. I like Lee. I like RCBS, but I like Lee. They make a really good die for a really good price, and they always give you something, at least one thing extra over the competition. Like this one, the shell holder came with the die set. The others don't do that. They also, Lee gives you this powder measure, dipper, which is all you need. I have a scale here, but really the bare minimum you could get away with is a tub to hold the powder, and this dipper is sized for a safe starting load in the caliber of the die set, which is 7.62 by 39, but the scale, a grain scale, is a big help in precision, because I can load pretty high, high precision ammo with what I have here. It doesn't take anything more elaborate, but it's slow. That's the downside of what I have here. It's slow, but it's something you can sit back and just take your time, and it's raining outside today, and load up some ammo, and you're not going to blaze away. Most of the time with, especially if you're making hunting loads, you're not blazing away with those anyway. You got a box of 20 is going to last you seasons. So, but it's a bullet seating die. You put in a key. You put in a. I don't have any loose bullets right now, but you put in a case that you fill with powder, and I have. All the companies make some kind of funnel. I got paper. It works. So I would take this funnel, get the powder into this case, take the case's powder in it, set a bullet on here and guide it up and start it. And then once I go in this center, the stem, adjust the seating depth of the bullet, which is, for the most part, is either set by, and I don't know if this is going to show up, but there's a cantilever groove like on this bullet. That's usually set up so when the brass is trimmed to the right length, the edge of the end of the neck would fall on that cantilever groove, those marks. I don't know if it shows up in the video, but um, and that would put the overall length, which we measure with our calipers. So this one is it's not a live round. It's just set up. It's a quick setup for if I'm loading this style bullet. All I got to do is put it in here. I screw the die down, and then I screw this stem down till it touches that bullet, and I'm really close to where I want this batch of ammo to end up. So, so that's loading. I know I'm not going to do it right now. I don't have any brass that's not sized and primed already, but so that would be bullet seating. There's case sizing, you know, so after you fire your case, there's a sizing die. Which deprimes, that's what this pin is. It'll screw into here. And the case runs up, and that pin will knock the old primer out. And at the same time, it'll redimension the outside, the body of the case. Because depending on how big your chamber is, and how much pressure was produced by the round when it was fired, that brass expands and it contracts a little, but sometimes it doesn't contract enough where it can just go right back into the chamber. So, and also the neck of the brass expands, and it's not able to hold the bullet once it's been fired, and it has to be sized back down. And then this die, this is another thing like Lee does, is this is the crimp die. So some companies have the crimping feature built into the bullet seating die. This one has a collet inside, and I don't know if that can be seen, but the way it works is the brass, the loaded round, this is screw into here as well, down until it touches the shell holder, which is or thereabouts. There's instructions that come with the die set. These instructions tell how to set, but so once that's set, roughly set, you'd put a loaded round in there, and you'd run it up, and there'd be some resistance, and you'd squeeze down on it, and that collet inside of there would squeeze down right at the mouth of the case here, and squeeze it in and kind of lock that bullet in place, which is more important than like a tubular magazine, 30-30, or with an semi-automatic like the AR or AK. So that's the crimp die. And other than that, I have the scale here I've had for decades now. But like I said, I think this and this came together as a set. So it's the hand press and the priming. It was like $80, I think. The die set was maybe in the 30s, 28, 30, somewhere in there, up to, depending on which. I have a die set for 30-06. I think it was more. It was over 40, but it's a 4-die set, and it has two different types of sizing dies. But it doesn't take a lot to get started, and that's the point I want to make. One more thing is, if you do this enough, you need a way of pulling you need a way of pulling bullet. What I'll do now is I'll pull one, and then I'll kind of load it back in, like I normally would if I was making loaded ammo. But say for whatever reason we had some ammo that we loaded and we wanted to pull the bullets. What I've done here is I've drilled and reamed with a 5/16 reamer into a piece of cold rolled stock, and it came back in saw cut relief, so it acts like a set of pliers that's only made to, if I can get it on here, it's really only made to grab this 30 caliber diameter bullet. So sometimes we're working up a load and you get some that are just, you realize they're loaded too hot, chamber pressure is too high. What we can do, put this in here, run this up, get a hold of that bullet, and then pull this apart, and there it is. Once it's out, we're done with this. Now we want to load it again. So what I can do, I can roughly set it with this bullet. Take a bullet seating die and screw it in till I screw them in till they touch, and then you can go open it up and go another eighth or quarter of a turn, and there's a little resistance in this before it bottoms out. So this lock ring or lock nut can be tightened a little bit. It's got an O-ring so it doesn't slip out. So then we back this stem out. Put this dummy round that we got made up in here and screw the stem in until I can just feel it touch. Take this one out. Now this would be, normally if I'm loading this would be a prime case with powder inside. I'd bring this up. Put this bullet on the top. And that's it. Now if I wanted to seat that deeper, I could come back and seat that deeper. But aside from some tools I made for myself to measure cases, you know, that's really all you need. I've done some things here, like I've made this, it's kind of like a bushing. It'll go on here, and now I can measure the diameter when we load this round. We want the bore diameter, we want to be able to set it a certain distance from the rifling, the origins of the rifling. So this way I got a hole drilled in here, reamed, that is just under bullet diameter size, and I can use this to measure. So now any bullet right where this would hit, this gives me a consistent measurement of where I can measure the rifling in the firearm itself, and then I can measure the ammo, and I can set that distance that it jumps to the rifling using the calipers and this bushing. So then this one I made to measure the shoulder. so I have an idea when I set my sizing die, I can measure the distance from the base to a spot on the shoulder. It's not necessary, it's just sometimes it's helpful. So other than that, other than actually sitting down and loading some ammo, that's all the gear I have. I've got powder. I have to have bullets and primers, but other than that, what you see here is pretty much all you gotta have.